What's up, everyone? Today we have a Craftsman. It is a push bagged mower, but I just don't have the bag. The person that owns this wants a tune-up, so we're going to discuss on what you need to do if you do not do the fall tune-up like I have in my previous videos. If you just need to do a quick springtime tune-up. Now, he told me that he ran it dry and put everything away. Then this last week he did a little yard work, and it seemed to be running okay, but he wanted to have it ready for the next year. So there's really technically no problem for this. So we're going to go over a couple things to look for, what we usually do in the either spring or fall. They're basically the same thing except for a couple small parts, and then we'll take it from there. So first things first, I want to hear this thing run. Let's double check a few items first. Now, obviously, if this is yours, you probably should know if there's oil and gas in it, but let's just say we don't know. There is both oil and fuel in there. That fuel kind of smells like a stabilized fuel. I think I'm getting a little bit more of a whiff of it right now. Yeah, let's give it a pull. Maybe it doesn't start. You know, I could have swore there was no primer. There is no primer. Is the plug connected? It is connected. Well, let's try this again. Something tells me there was not a whole lot of yard work being done, so either I heard it wrong or the story is a little bit different. Believe we have a carb problem. One of our springtime tune-ups is going to be this air filter, so we're just going to throw that one away. These have you can usually buy them pretty cheap, so they just have like these two little holes on one side and solid on the other, so not going to worry too much about that. Let's put a little spray down the throat. Sorry, looking at my head. I didn't put a whole lot in there, so it might not do anything. Or it might do exactly like we wanted it to, starts and dies. Well, ideally I just want to continue to run, but nope, looks like we have a... If you didn't do any winter maintenancing or fall tune-ups, this is what's going to happen. So we gotta apologize, there's a significant amount of wind outside today, but I need to get this done. So you're either going to take an 8mm or a 5/16. So we're going to take off these two black screws. And depending on if you have fuel in your tank, you're going to either want something to block the flow, or I like to use vice grips. I understand some people don't like the fact of using vice grips because you can crack the line, but my rebuttal to that would be is if that's cracking your line, you probably should be replacing that line. In addition, these are either 9/32 or 7mm. 7mm doesn't quite fit nearly as well, but you can do it. In addition to that, we're going to want to take this cover off. That, you're not going to see me unfortunately do very much of it, but is a couple of screws on the top, I believe, and a clip. Oh look, it's not a Phillips, it's a different attachment. Let me just take that off real quick. Okay, so after power flicker number 1, let's continue on. The lights just suddenly go out. That's the reason why. Like I said, it's a nasty little windstorm we're having today. So we're just going to take off the fuel line. And oddly enough, I just got done having a conversation with one of my neighbors. I'm just like, I still don't understand why we all don't have underground power. It's like, oh no, that would be stupid. It'd cost so much money. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I'm sure it would, but at the same time, never would really have to worry about power outages. I remember living in places that always had underground lines, and I'm pretty sure I've never experienced a power outage, at least nowhere near as much as I do here. But, you know. Okay, that's just going to be a giant pain. We're not going to take that off. We'll just take off the whole tank. The tank itself just clips on, which, if you have the smaller version of this engine, you can just clip it right off now. But if you have the bigger version, which is what this is, you have oh, 5/16. You have to take off the recoil assembly. Should be 3 of these 5/16 on there. And the cover, if you're interested, some of them, they're all just a little bit different, but some of them will have 2 screws that hold it in place. Some only have 1. Some only have clips. This one has 2 with a clip. If it does have a clip, I don't want to say you should be afraid of breaking it, but there's a possibility when you're taking it off you might break it, so be delicate with it. We don't need that anymore since we're going to be taking the carb with it, or the tank with it, excuse me. So this carb comes right off. And I'll show you the cheapest and easiest way of fixing this problem. Everyone is going to say you have to buy an emulsion tube, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, I'll show you how exactly this is going to work out. So now that we have the carb off, disconnected the fuel tank. The fuel tank is showing on right behind you. I'm going to clean out this as much as possible. That right there. We take our 9/30 seconds. Here's a nifty little trick. Take a very wide flathead and take it right here and lift up. Do it on both sides. Don't damage anything. Yeah, I think that gas in his container is definitely a little old. Probably gonna be refreshing that for him. But here's another trick. Clean screwdriver. You see where this jet protrudes out and the black base? You take it so you're not touching the white, you're just touching the black base, and then you rock your screwdriver up a little bit. That is the easiest way of dislodging the emulsion tube. So this is the piece that if you were going to go on YouTube or the internet, they would say you would have to replace, because this is technically what the blockage is. That's true. You should, if you did replace it, it could be the problem. And this even comes apart further. This piece disconnects, but while like this, I'm going to take my air compressor and blow through this hole, blow through that hole, blow through this hole, and all that's going to clean this out. Not going to subject you to that noise, but turn your air compressor to a very low PSI, like 30, 40. I think mine's set up. Yeah, mine's about 40 right now. You don't want to eject this across your garage, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. When you do this, when you blow through this jet, you're going to see air and junk come out right here. Now, this jet is exceptionally small. So, I'm going to, because of the size of it, I'm going to take a wire from a wire brush. Even though I blew it out, I'm going to take that wire, shove it through, and just make sure it's clean. Make sure it's cleaned out. I saw a hole. I'm going to do it one more time. But basically, that was your reason right there. So however much it costs for electricity, that's what you use to charge your air compressor, and that's going to be your cost of fixing this, besides your time. Next, I'm going to put this in a clean area. I'm going to take the same air compressor, going to take it, I'm going to dry off everything and make sure it's nice and clean inside the carb and the bowl itself. With everything 90% dry, we can now take our emulsion tube and put it back in. Now, it only goes in one way, but this jet faces the choke. If you're having a hard time, make check. There we go. Sometimes it clicks, sometimes it doesn't. You just have to make sure it's level with that black little housing there. If you're having a hard time, you're going to want to check in there. See that white piece? It's a little hard to see probably. That white piece can sometimes rotate, and there's a hole for that emulsion tube in there. If that rotates, you're not going to be able to shove that through. So you're going to want to probably take the butterfly out and then find the rotations or where it should be rotated to, and then you could put that emulsion tube back in. So that's in a nutshell what you want. Now that we are done with that, we're going to put our bowl back on. And yes, you could, like I said, replace the emulsion tube. If your bowl somehow was super dirty and had a lot of dust and just other contaminants, then yeah, it probably would behoove you to replace it. It's really not all that expensive. But if it's just something like this, or if it's not very dirty and you can tell it was a blocked jet, you know, this is a free fix and it's not that hard to take apart. So I'm going to put it back on the opposite of how I took it off. A couple things to note before I do so is if this white seal is not on your carb, make sure it is on your mower, because if it's, or on the engine, if it's not, you're going to have a pretty significant vacuum leak, because that actually holds a seal, because this is like a retaining clip of some type, that holds back a seal that keeps the vacuum and, you know, the mixture correct. So I'm going to put that back on. I'm going to drain the tank, and then we'll be right back. Moment of truth. I have fresh gas in there. Now, this gas, if I was going to put in my lawnmower, which I'm not going to lie, I might have, would run. It would run just fine, because the jetting on mine is a lot different. It's older, it's not as efficient, and, well, it's a flathead, so there's that. But, point being, these have the smallest jet size, and they really do not like aged fuel whatsoever. It needs to be fresh. Same season at the very least. Not last season, that's about it. Same season. If you buy like 5 gallons in the spring, and you probably need to make sure you use all of it by the end of summer. Probably even the middle of summer, to be honest, with these style of machines. But we're getting off topic. We're going to see if that free fix fixed our problem. Well, there you have it. Works just fine. So, like I said, feel free to buy emulsion tube if you want. They're not that expensive. Sometimes they're really hard to get a hold of. I think right now when I was looking for them, they were giving me an estimated time of like 8 to 12 days. But other times you can get them like tomorrow. But this is a free fix. If you don't have an air compressor, get compressed air in a can. I mean, technically you could just spray it down with carb cleaner and spray through the jets. I don't like doing that without removing the little O-rings first. Just know that if you do remove them, you can damage them, so be very careful. That's why I like the compressed airway. You don't have to remove anything. The damaging is pretty much next to nil, especially if you follow the lower PSI rule. And as you can tell, it works just fine. So what are we going to do with the next set of tune-ups? Let it run outside for a little bit more. Let it warm up the oil. I need to change the plug. I already put the new air filter in there. Going to look at the cable. It looks fine, but I'm just going to double check, make sure it's not like dirty or rusty. Then I'm going to sharpen and balance the blade, and by that point in time you're probably okay for the rest of the season, unless there's specifically a problem that you notice. But if there's not a problem, you just want a tune-up, that's basically your tune-up right there. Overhead valve engines like this, you're going to want to consult your manual, but I know the age of this isn't that old, and the duration that this guy used it, it's not that much. So if you are getting to a point where you should be checking the valve lash, you should also check that right now. But like I said, not that time yet. Follow your manual on the timing and continue on. Watch my other videos if you want to know how to do so. But other than that, this should be about it. So this is how you fix one of these styles of mowers. This is for the smaller ones, like the 500 EX, EXI. This is a 675. They're all the same. The carb is basically exactly the same. Primered, doesn't matter. Choked, like this one is, doesn't matter. Exact same thing. Believe the emulsion tube's even the same for all of those. So by fixing that one problem, you saved yourself however much it cost at that particular time. So if you like what you see, keep watching, subscribe, catch me in the next video. Have a good day. Follow me at Small Engine 101 on Instagram.